What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Hero Club podcast. We are pumped today to talk more about March Madness, what's going on with that, how NIL has affected it, kind of just dive into that. We'll start off. We are your host. I'm Micah Howell, and that's Brett McPeters. We are the co-founders of Hometown Heroes Sports Agency. We represent college athletes to act as the matchmaker between them and brands. This is our podcast where we just break down NIL, everything happening in college sports, and whatever we want to talk about that day. So, Brett, if you want to go ahead and kick us off, kind of what are we going to be talking about in this episode, and then kick us off with March Madness.
Yes, sir. Yeah, it's a fun episode. March is here, and we've got a lot of basketball to talk about. So I'm super pumped about that. We got a lot to talk about in the fact of NIL deals throughout March Madness and what's that looking like with some players in the game right now and leading up to March Madness, throughout March Madness, all that kind of stuff. And then we'll kind of lead into some stuff about the actual tournament, and we'll talk about NCAA, and we can talk about some seeding, and we'll talk about money in the tournament between like the way that everyone's broken down by games and what winning looks like and how much and all that kind of stuff. And then at the end, we'll kind of just have a little fun talking about our personal brackets. And as some of you guys know, we got our Hometown Heroes March Madness bracket challenge going. So we'll talk about the leaders and what brackets they're looking like, upsets, all that kind of stuff. So it's gonna be a good one.
Yes, sir. I'm pumped. Can you give us the breakdown, kind of dive into just where NIL deals have gone so far leading into March Madness? We've seen a lot with, Drew Timmy's done a lot. We've seen a lot of kind of big companies start off with that. So what have been some of the notable ones to you so far?
Yeah, I think a lot of the stuff with March Madness is like kind of what we talk about with when we talked about like the college football playoffs and the national championship. Like a lot of these companies are taking a hold of what their main goal is. Like, okay, who can I find on a team that is probably going to be in the tournament the longest and as a notable name on that team? So like you said, Drew Timme is a great example. Gonzaga is always a great contender in March Madness. He's kind of like the face of that team. I feel like he's been in the league for 25 years, but I mean, everybody knows who Drew Timme is. And like you said, I mean, some of the stuff that he's done leading up to March Madness that will also like kind of happen throughout March Madness. Like he did that deal with Beats with Dr. Dre, and he gifted his teammates with a bunch of Beats. So that was cool. And then just a lot of different stuff like Barstool Gonzaga, they were signing a deal with him. And I mean, we've got, what does it say? Drew Timme's NIL value is $626,000, which is, I mean, absurd. It's top 10
in college basketball, top 100, I think maybe top 60 in all of college sports altogether.
Yeah.
I saw a super interesting fact about him that Drew Timme actually is making more money by coming back in college than he would have been if he was on a two-way contract in the NBA.
I believe it fully. I mean, and so that exactly. And then think about, so what, 3 deals in the last couple of weeks?
In less than 2 weeks, he's announced 3 deals with all like notable companies. I mean, Barstool, Beats, and Continental Tires. So, and Continental Tires is commercial. Like, that's super cool.
Dude, yeah, like that's and that's what I'm saying. Like, that's why we're seeing a lot of like guys like that coming back for their extra year, because times like this, the hype of playing in March Madness, like it's the biggest college basketball tournament ever, one of the biggest tournaments ever. Like, and then think about, I mean, I guarantee you a lot of that valuation is from March itself.
Oh yeah, I mean just playing on Gonzaga and having that Gonzaga basketball brand behind you. But I mean, just like coming into it, and we've seen so much happen with NIL going into March that I mean it's been a blast to see. And he's been one of the biggest beneficiaries by far but we've seen all kinds of stuff. I mean, Alabama basketball coming in number 1 seed overall, but they released jerseys
Subtle
for,
flex.
got to. They released like licensed jerseys for all 17 players on the team, which we've seen. Obviously, we've seen jerseys in the NIL landscape, but the fact that one, it's for all 17 players is a big deal because that's not something you see very often in the NIL landscape. But two, I mean, just two years ago, that would have never been legal, and now it has the name on it. It has players are receiving a portion of that revenue from these jerseys. I mean, it's huge. It's changing the game.
I think that's the beauty of college basketball too. Is like I feel like college basketball is such a unique sport because I personally think that getting a scholarship to play college basketball is probably the hardest to do. Because a men's basketball team probably has travels with probably 12 guys, 15 guys max.
Yeah, 15. I think 13's average.
And not even all those are scholarship. But like you said, with the jerseys, like a college football team can't license a jersey for every player on the team. Like I think that's the beauty of NIL and college basketball and just all those things kind of coming together into one and just March in general. Like just oh man, I
It's
love
also
this.
fun for the walk-ons because every team's got the one walk-on or the two walk-ons that the entire fan base loves.
Right.
So they probably don't have a super high social media following, but I mean, just like being able to go on there, like Alabama's is Adam Cottrell. Everybody loves Adam Cottrell. He's a walk-on. He's been there. He's been there for a minute. It used to be Britton Johnson last year. He transferred out and went to Samford to play with his old high school coach. But I mean,
that's awesome.
Like the fact that he now has a licensed jersey is super cool. Whether he makes $20 or whether he makes $5,000, whatever it is. I mean, it's just a neat opportunity that 2 years ago nobody ever would have had.
I love it. Cool opportunity for companies too. What are some of the highlight companies that you've seen this month with college basketball that get to highlight different players and schools and highlight their company as well?
Yeah, a big one's been Steve Madden. Steve Madden came out and signed 10 female athletes to help promote their clothing brand and their shoes specifically, but also, I mean, I think a lot of them got purses. I know one of our athletes actually was a part of one, Faith Masonis. And she was a part of the whole Steve Madden deal. She got shoes, she got a purse. I don't know all the exact specifications on it, but I mean, just the fact that companies like Steve Madden, who, I mean, they're up there with the Nikes, with the Under Armours, with, I mean, all the big brands in the world. The fact that they are now, and they've always been in influencer marketing, but they've never really gotten into athletics before. And so now that you have companies like this diving into NIL, even though they're not kind of that athletic apparel company, it's a big deal, and it shows that NIL is here. It shows that NIL is here to stay, and it shows that there's a lot of potential in NIL. So it's one thing we've seen a lot. That's one thing we talk about with companies all the time is like through NIL, what it really does more than anything else is it's influencer marketing. But people trust athletes. People love to see what athletes post. And if an athlete posts something, they trust it. And so that's where it really comes in. And I'm not saying that doesn't happen in regular influencer marketing through social media influencers, but athletes have a special effect with it. And so now that we've seen brands like Steve Madden come in and use it, it's a big deal.
Yeah. Oh, no, for sure. I mean, I feel like I can speak personally on that. Like if I feel like a lot of things now too, and when it comes to like feeds and on Instagram especially, I'm not huge on TikTok or anything, but like on Instagram, like I see a lot of those influencer marketing pages that turn into just like ads, like promoted sponsored ads on Instagram. And when I see stuff like that, I keep scrolling. But if I'm following a guy that I enjoy watching on a certain college baseball team or college football or something, and he's promoting Gatorade or No Bull or something that I'm interested in as well, like that's going to catch my eye way more than somebody else that's promoting I don't know. I'm just speaking on what you said too. I think it's got a much stronger effect and it holds people's attention a lot better. So I think bigger companies like that are starting to realize that and they're taking a hold of it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I remember when it was announced that Bryce Young was going to be on the Dr. Pepper Fansville commercials.
Yeah,
Tuscaloosa
dude.
went nuts. Everybody was Googling, everybody was trying to find these Fansville commercials and figure out what's the plot line going to be, what's the story, how's he going to be in it, what's his role. Like, I
It
mean,
was
Tuscaloosa was
hilarious
freaking out. It
too
was so good.
because what was it? He was like taking the place in the family, and
He
he's
was
like
taking the place of the son.
in that kid's room or something. That
He
was
walked in.
hilarious.
No, that was a good
That's a
one.
great commercial.
It is. Fansville was like top tier commercials.
Yeah, they do a good job. And it's funny, like I love it too because it's not something that you'll just randomly see in like April or May.
Mhm.
Like they air in college football season and college football season only, and I love it.
Yeah. Fansville, Dr. Pepper by Fansville, or Fansville by Dr. Pepper. And then Mayhem, All-State Mayhem.
Yep.
Probably my top commercial on the S tier, top of the list. They're there.
I like that one too. I feel like Allstate did a big turnaround with that. Like it was always the "Are you in good hands?" But then they totally took the other route and just it's kind of like I don't know if we've talked about this on here before, but the Super Bowl commercial where whatever company it was just like totally trashed Tesla. Did you watch that? I couldn't even tell you the name of
No.
the company, but it was literally a commercial where they just said like every bad feature about Tesla, and it was just showing them like that like the auto drive doesn't work, and that like they literally pushed like a mannequin out in front of a Tesla like 2 seconds before and just ran it over. Which theirs was a little less effective than Allstate's Mayhem thing, but I love the like opposite thing where it's like talking about what could happen without Allstate, and then I don't know, it's hilarious. I love
Yeah.
it.
I mean, they like essentially took a scare tactic, which
Yeah, for sure.
I'm not gonna say is always the right thing to do, but in insurance, I'll give it to you. Like it's probably the best way to advertise insurance.
Heck yeah. Speaking of influencers, there's one Mayhem commercial that's like an influencer like out in the parking lot doing like a TikTok dance or something, and somebody crashes because of it, and they're it's like, "Are you in good hands?" I love it.
How much do you think the All-State Mayhem guy is worth? What's his
A
NIL
lot.
value?
A lot. I actually looked it up one time because I was looking up him and I was looking up Flo from
Progressive.
Progressive, and it's a lot, dude. I mean, like it's very similar to Jake from State Farm. Like they are considered like the face of these companies
Why are
to a
insurance
lot of
commercials
people.
like top tier?
I don't know, dude. Like yeah, everything we're talking about is insurance companies. They cover a lot of ground, man.
No kidding. Huh.
Think about State Farm too. The amount of people they have on their commercials: Patrick Mahomes, Chris Paul.
Oh yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, maybe that's something we need to look into more now that we're sitting on here. We'll talk about that in our next team meeting
What NIL deals with
with
insurance
insurance
companies?
companies. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big one.
So I mean, car insurance for college students. You can hit that.
Big time.
We'll
Big
talk
time.
more. We'll debrief later. So, anyways, on the a couple more NIL deals we've seen go on with bigger companies. I mean, we saw LG Electronics. They signed 4 players altogether: 2 men's, 2 women's basketball players, all big names. 2 on Houston, 1 on Samford women's, and 1 on LSU women's. Um, and theirs is actually really cool. They're not going after, like, they're not trying to sell LG Electronics. They're trying to promote mental health. And
Nice.
so, yeah, like super neat. And they're doing it because there's been a whole bunch of surveys around college athletes and mental health and kind of where there's been a struggle there and knowing where to go when you have mental health issues, when you need to see a counselor, whatever that may look like. Like there's been a ton of stuff about it. And so LG said, look, we'll put some money into that. We'll go behind that. And so they filmed a commercial using these athletes. But on top of that, they gave each athlete that they used $10,000 to donate to a charity of their choice.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So you're seeing like
Nice. Yeah, I love
a
that.
lot of people donate to like different like youth organizations. So it's been super neat.
I feel like that campaign of athletes and mental health is taking a lot of steps in the right direction. A lot of that starting with Simone Biles, right?
Yes.
In the
Yeah.
Olympics, she sat out because she was struggling with mental health. Like that's the good in NIL that a lot of people are missing out on, and what that kind of NIL deals and money is going towards a lot of things that are helping a lot of people in really positive ways. So that's big time.
Yeah.
Shout out LG. That's awesome.
Yeah. Big biology. So
How about Pepsi though? Let's talk about Pepsi.
I hate to say it, Pepsi is the biggest loser of the tournament after this NIL deal. Signing 5 Purdue basketball players, really hoping for a run, hoping maybe they can take it all the way. First round.
I hope they had a good pre-tournament like advertising, because I'm sure they thought that they were, like we said earlier, a lot of these companies are trying to sign people that they think are going to be in the tournament for a while. And you're not wrong to think Purdue, like they had a great
They're a
season, was
1
in the,
seed. Like you think
yeah.
at the very least they win the first 2 games. Like
So actually, so they lost to, how do you say it? Farley Dickinson, right?
yeah, Riley Dickerson.
So something very interesting about that school, what I learned in one of my classes last week, talking to this guy that I sit next to, Farley Dickinson was not even supposed to be in the tournament. They went to their conference championship. I think it's like the, what is it, NEC, Northeastern Conference.
Yeah, sounds right.
They lost the conference championship to, I can't even remember the name of the school, but that school had just moved from D2 to D1, and there's like a 4-year time period where you're like, even if you win, you can't go into like the postseason tournament.
Yeah.
And because the distribution of scholarships and all that kind of stuff. So they have to wait 4 years before they can play in March Madness.
Mm-hmm.
And they won the conference championship. Farley Dickinson didn't even win, got second in the conference, but they're the top of that conference that is allowed to go in. They come in and now they win their playing game. They beat Purdue. Like, that's nuts, dude.
Yeah.
That's a wild storyline.
Oh, it's insane. One of my favorite trends on social media about like when there's a big upset like that is how everybody will compare the 2 like gyms of the schools, and seeing Purdue's next to Farley Dickerson's.
Right.
It's so good because you look at it and like Farley Dickerson they have 2 days a week. They have what they call a whisper half court practice because a yoga class has reserved the other half of their court.
Get out of here.
So they have to practice on this half of the court and like have to whisper the whole time because this yoga class has reserved it. It's also, their gym is under their like swim and dive facility. So like they've had a lot under it. So they've had a lot of games this season have been canceled because there have been leaks onto their court.
Shut up, dude.
So there have been.
So they're like fully underground,
I guess. So, but I mean, I saw that. I saw.
That's ridiculous, dude. That's worse than the what was the team last year?
St. Peter's.
St. Peter's, yeah. St. Peter's gym was bad, but the Farley Dickinson, that sounds worse.
Yeah, they had to Farley Dickerson again. They have to sleep on the bus for a lot of their away games to save money. So because they can't afford to travel and stay in it is sad. But I mean, I've seen like GroupMe's have been started for this team. So, but also, I mean, and we'll talk about it in a little bit, kind of where that money breakdown comes in. But you've seen like they'll make a lot of money from that. I saw this last stat that I saw for the Dickerson. They have to shower in their jerseys because they can only afford to like wash. And I don't know how true this is because this doesn't.
That seems a little far fetched.
Yeah, this does. So take it with a grain of salt. But something I saw said that they had to shower in the jerseys because they could only afford to do laundry once a week, like wash all their stuff once a week.
Like away or like?
I'm not sure.
It's got to be on the road.
I would think, but again, like,
because in any case, you could just go home and wash your own jersey.
Yeah, but I mean, we're also talking like, 1, you can go home and wash your own jersey. 2, like this isn't laundry costs like $2,
right?
Like, sure.
Where'd you hear this?
Probably TikTok.
Had to be TikTok.
Probably
Yeah.
TikTok.
Hoop, there it is.
But on the note, give us the rundown of what teams are about to make and where does the business side of March Madness kind of come into this?
It's ridiculous, man. So I don't know who made this prediction, but it was predicted that this March Madness this year would break $1 billion in just, I mean, that's across the board. I don't know if that actually includes NIL, but between like teams winning and like total revenue of just like March Madness, which is ridiculous. $1 billion is crazy. But the big thing that is talked about the most is teams like this, Farley Dickinson, St. Peter's, the way that the NCAA breaks down this tournament and like the payment of it's kind of nuts. So each team in a game spot, if that makes sense, is considered a unit. So if the SEC has 5 teams in the tournament, I don't know how many they have this year, but if the SEC has 5 teams, the first 5 games, say all 5 of those teams win, that's 1 unit towards the SEC. And then that and the unit, so I'll go based off of 2022, the unit valuation last year for March Madness was $338,000. $338,887. So almost $39,000. We'll just say 39,000. So if all 5 of those SEC teams win their first game, that's 1 unit. That's 5 units. So 339 times 5. And that happens every round. So let's say, for example, if the SEC that year has 10 total units out of that whole tournament, between those 5 teams, the SEC would get 3.38 million. 3,338,000. Like, that's ridiculous. So to that point of Farley Dickinson, I don't know if they actually include playing games in that.
I heard they did because that's why they actually do the playing games.
Okay, for those smaller teams.
Those like smaller schools for teams like Farley Dickinson who they have to like play in these playing games a lot of times to make it. They have another chance to earn that unit.
That's crazy. So let's say for 2023 that unit worth was like 340. So now that conference, what is it, NEC?
Yeah.
They've already won $680,000 for that conference. Like, that's ridiculous. They won't be doing their laundry in the shower anymore.
When they play,
but
FAU
it's crazy.
Tonight.
Do what?
They play FAU tonight. We'll see if they can win another one.
Keep going, baby. But yeah, so actually, it's also interesting past that. So that example I gave, if the SEC had 10 total units, $3.38 million, that money is given to that conference every year, that same amount for 6 years. So then SEC would get, so 3.38 times 6, that would be the total valuation of what they would get from. So if Farley Dickinson comes out with $1 million, they'll totally win $6 million for their conference. And then from there, like, the conference has their own, it kind of depends on what they want to do with it. They can distribute that out evenly to the whole conference, or they can like do whatever they want with that. So I think it was Loyola Chicago when they were on their little run and being hot for those couple years, that their conference, they were like, no, we're not going to distribute this out to the whole conference. Like, Loyola Chicago is the only team in our conference that made it. They put in that work. They made it this far, so that all that money went to Loyola Chicago, which is cool. I get both sides. Like, some of these bigger conferences that have a bunch of teams in here, like, I kind of get you distributed it out. And I mean, some teams are walking away with $20+ million total from this tournament. So that's a lot of money to each school, but yeah, it's crazy, man. Like, that's a lot of money that can turn around programs. And I mean, it's ridiculous. That's a lot of money.
that's what you see like those TV deals. So I mean, that's how the SEC paid out. It was like $49.9 million to each school in 2022, I think, from their media deal with
Wow.
whoever it was with. But like that's where a lot of these schools make money is by the conferences paying them out through a revenue sharing system. So it's easier for the big conferences like the SEC, the Big 12, Big 10, Pac 12, ACC, places like that. It's
Right.
easier for them to kind of do like, all right, everybody gets a slice of the pie. But I mean, when you're like Loyola Chicago or like Fairleigh Dickinson, it's kind of hard for that conference to say, hey, the $1 million you just brought back home for us, we're actually going to divide that up between all 12 teams. You get
Yeah,
$100.
it's not fair.
Like, so I'm all for teams like Fairleigh Dickinson or Loyola taking 100% of that.
That's ridiculous.
So I don't know where I would stand as far as like if I were Greg Sankey, the commissioner of the SEC. I don't know where I would stand as far as like who to distribute it to then. So I'd probably lean towards like everybody that made the tournament then gets distributed evenly, maybe.
So yeah, like teams like Georgia that, and I mean, there's plenty like Georgia, LSU, South Carolina, these teams that didn't make these, and I even didn't make like an NIT. Teams like that versus an Alabama who, let's say Alabama goes on and wins the whole thing. That's a lot of money. And then teams that didn't even make an NIT, that wouldn't be as fair to me distributing that evenly across the SEC.
Yeah.
I don't
No,
know.
for sure.
I think it's a case by case basis, and I definitely get why, like you said, like schools, it's easier for a conference like the SEC to do that, but
Mhm.
it does kind of seem like you kind of how well you do, you earn what you get, and I mean, if you're not even part of it, you
Yeah.
getting a piece of cake doesn't make sense. But
Yeah. Well, I mean, like use the example Alabama wins it all. That's 6 rounds, 6 units. I mean, that's almost $2 million that now you're saying, hey, you actually have to split this with 14 teams.
yeah,
So
and then plus you add more, like you add in a couple other units on top of that with Missouri one and Kentucky one, and I mean, you're starting to talk about some serious money.
yeah, for real. So
But so one big thing that I want to talk about that I feel like I get a lot of my information that we talk about on here from a lot of my classes, but one thing we talked about in my sports finance class was there's word on the street that the NCAA is talking about expanding March Madness tournament, which I personally am not a fan of, but the way that it would do it is it would be roughly around like 90 teams. I heard 80, but then I did a little more research and it said that it would be closer to like the 90 team range, which would have it right around like 25% of all D1 basketball teams would be involved in March Madness.
okay, that's kind of satisfying. I like saying like, all right, top 25%. Here's the thing: 90 teams would probably mean that there would be 10 playing games. Like, that's probably where that. This is my assumption from the going from 80
Right.
to 60. But say there's 10 playing games. That's a lot of playing games, but also kind of back to the money side that we were just coming from. You give a lot of teams like Fairleigh Dickinson a chance to kind of make some of that money.
So if you
So
have 10 playing games, you're saying that the top basically you earn the top 10 seeds in each side and then 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, all those seeds are being competed for playing games? Or are you saying that then,
well, by that point, you'd have
well, yeah, I guess that wouldn't, that's still with the
80. You'd have
bracket we have
20.
now.
You'd have 20 seeds,
So you
which
have,
another satisfying number. 25%, 20 seeds.
dude, I don't know. So I'm okay. Here's my point of view, my little opinion. I I like the idea of expanding the playing games than the more than just the what four we have now.
Yeah.
But I think you mess with perfection. March Madness to me right now, the way it is laid out, once you get to the 64 teams, 68 if you can include the playing whatever. I think it's perfect. I don't think you touch it. And I think a lot of people would feel that way. 25% of all teams, that's cool, but like March, you got to earn your spot to get to March Madness, man. Like, imagine if we had 25% of all football teams playing in the playoffs. That's ridiculous.
It's true. I'm about to do that. How many rounds would that be?
Dude, I don't know. And here's the one of the first things I thought about this. You have a bracket that big. I don't think anybody would. What?
You have to have bye games, bye weeks,
Right. Yeah.
bye rounds.
Well, I think that right now, I don't think that a perfect bracket will ever happen.
No.
But I think people think that there's still a chance. And that's what matters. You give people the hope that it might one day happen. You do this, 90 teams, show me the stat of the chances of a perfect bracket with 90 teams. No one would ever think it's possible. And that takes so much fun out of the tournament out.
That's true, but let's be real. Everybody would still make one. Like nobody would stop.
Oh, I agree. I agree. For sure, I would still make one. And it would probably make that beginning part a little more fun. But like, I don't know, man. I think I'm against it.
It's a lot.
That's a lot of teams, dude. Then you don't even call it March Madness. You call it Spring Madness because it'd take like 4 months.
Yeah, that's true. Well, let's see how many rounds that would be.
It wouldn't take 4 months, but
you say 80 teams. Assume there's 10 playing games. You got 80. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, that gave me 6 rounds.
Huh?
6 rounds, but eventually those numbers got into halves. So you'd have to go because you'd go 80, 40, 20, but then you'd go to 10 and 5. And you can't have 5.
No, yeah, you gotta have buys in there somewhere.
Yeah. So maybe you do go 9.
Even with the system we have right now, there's 63 games played.
Yeah, that's nuts.
It's a lot of basketball, man.
Yeah. It'd be fun. There'd be a lot of money in it.
Dude,
By the time you get to games, you get to NCAA passing out money, you get to media deals, you get to sponsorships.
Yeah, and then you're really talking about money to conferences and those units.
Yeah.
Then that creates way more opportunity of games being played. So the champion at the end is making bukus of money.
If you give a bye, does that team automatically get that unit for the money?
Ooh.
That's where we get interesting. Because like
that
then
gets
you start
really
playing for the 2 seed. Like
yeah, to get the money.
You don't want to be top 4. You want that extra $3 million.
I don't know. I bet Arizona wishes they were a 1 seed.
Yeah, that's fair.
Princeton's on a roll, bro.
Dude, they are. They're like actually pretty good.
Who would they play next? Winner of
they beat Missouri in their second round game, and now
I think they would play.
They play Baylor.
Oh, that's right.
Well,
yeah,
they play either Baylor or Creighton. So whoever comes out on top there.
Hopefully for my bracket it's Baylor, but I don't know, man. At that point it's like kind of just they messed up enough people's brackets where it's like you guys just keep going, see how far you can do it.
They're the guy that everybody wants to see win. Them and Fairleigh.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
No.
Wouldn't that be awesome, dude? Princeton, Fairleigh Dickinson championship or Final Four, whenever they would meet.
They would both need to win
2 more games, right? Or are they on the same side of the bracket?
They'd play in the Elite 8. No, that's wrong. Hold on. Final Four. It'd have to be Final Four.
That's awesome, dude. That would be so
legit.
Is that on the top or the bottom side of the bracket?
Princeton's on top.
So Princeton would have to beat Bama in the Elite Eight.
Yes.
I love it. That'd be awesome.
I would be. I'm here for it. I'm not here for them to beat Bama. I would actually cry, but
I would love nothing more, I think.
if it was gonna happen, I'd be glad that it was them.
Right. Yeah, at that point, like, you can be mad, but you can't be that mad.
Yeah, that's true. So that's
Oh,
Arizona.
yeah. Speaking of perfect brackets and money,
Dude.
if it does ever happen, for all of you listening, if you ever do make a perfect bracket, you're set for life.
Or
because you have 0.001 billion dollars coming to your pocket. ESPN, it was either ESPN or SportsCenter, one of them. I think it's a ESPN like tournament challenge. If you have a bracket in there,
challenge gives you 1 million.
When I first heard that, I was like, that's honestly kind of like cheap staking it out, you know?
Yeah.
Like, you could do better. But Warren Buffett, like 10 years ago, he was like, don't worry, I'll cover the rest of that. He said that he would pay anybody that makes a perfect bracket $1 billion.
With a B. Billion.
Yeah. Yeah.
Generational wealth because he chose the right team.
Yeah. The right 63 teams.
Yeah. No kidding.
But dude, now that's more like it. Like, that's worth. What was the stat you told me the other day? Because it's like, if you did every team or every game as a coin flip, the odds are 9.3 quintillion, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
What was the stat about the sand that you said?
Yeah, there's like, I don't remember exactly how many grains of sand there are on Earth, but it was like the stat was that you have a better chance of picking 1 grain of sand on Earth and then one random person picking another random grain of sand on Earth
and it being the same,
and y'all picking the same 2 grains of sand than you do of having a perfect bracket.
Well, maybe we just crushed the hopes of people thinking that it was possible.
I'm going to continue to think it's possible every year. And every year until that tournament kicks off and I lose the first game, inevitably, I'm going to continue to
pick the right team, bro.
That I have a perfect bracket.
Just pick the right team. That's all it takes.
It's like baseball. Everybody says station run. You got to run the stations.
Right?
One station at a time.
Just keep on chugging.
Yeah. This time it's just one at a time.
That's
but I mean, you got Warren Buffett who's covering the 1 billion. You got ESPN who's throwing in the nice cherry on top for another $1 million. And then you have CNBC who's giving out 1 million every year for the rest of your life.
Oh, I think that's still Warren Buffett.
Oh, that's nuts. That's just to cover the expenses.
Yeah, I think I have that down as like CNBC wrote about it. But
okay.
It's like Warren Buffett did his own like bracket pool challenge. He called it like an office pool challenge. And winner gets $1 million every year for the rest of their life.
For them. Well,
I'd personally rather win the billion, but still, that's sick.
Well, let's talk about the real prize here. If anybody ever gets a perfect bracket, we, as Hometown Heroes, will give you 1 free hoodie just like this. You can rep the merch. It's dope. Check it out.
Well, and then the caveat is you have to let us represent you.
Yeah, we will. You do have to sign our contract and sign on with our agency, and we will bring you some fantastic NIL deals, lots of media coverage your way.
We'll just be your marketing agent for the rest of your life as the one person who won the perfect bracket challenge.
Yeah, we'll give you a favorable deal.
Love it, dude. That's awesome. Speaking of which, we actually are giving out a free hoodie because we have our own bracket challenge.
We did.
Which is going well. Let's see. Who do we got in the lead right now?
Let's check.
We had a pretty good showing. Like 20 people show out.
Dude, actually, Daryl, one of our agents, is in the lead right now.
Oh, that's not going to last, though. He's got Duke winning.
But he has Duke as the overall champion. So we'll see how long it lasts. Second place.
Confident.
He was confident. Second place, we got my friend Vaughn. He's killing it right now. We'll see. We'll see
Yeah,
if that
that's
can
the
pick
big
up.
difference right now. He's 10 points behind Daryl, but Daryl's max points are 1050 and Vaughn's max points
1560.
1560. That's pretty stout, dude. That's
Yeah.
up there.
Yeah. No kidding.
That's strong. I love it. What's your bracket looking like? What's been your big misses?
My big miss was Memphis. And I understand it's college basketball and you can hate on me for blaming the refs. But Memphis should have got that timeout, and I'll die on that hill.
Yeah, yeah.
With that said, was I right in having Memphis go to the Final Four? Probably not, but I had them there. Lots
It's a
of
bold
faith.
pick, an 8 seed to the Final Four.
It was a bold pick. I really believed it. I honestly, I still think that Kansas. So I had them in Kansas State playing in the Elite Eight, and I still think that Kansas State's making it to the Elite Eight.
I think I do
So
have Kansas State in the Elite Eight.
I mean,
One of my brackets,
they
one
just
of
beat
my brackets,
Kentucky.
I think I got them in the Final Four.
Yeah,
I had that. I had Kansas State beating Kentucky. They're stout, dude. Because they put up some numbers earlier in the year. They were beating Kansas and like I'll tell you, you're not alone though, because I had Texas A&M a 7 seed in the Final Four.
yeah.
That one hurt big time. Why I had Texas A&M in the Final Four, I couldn't give you a great explanation. I think they were underseeded and they were a really good basketball team. Final Four caliber, I don't know, but it was a gut feeling that I was like, hey, I've got friends at Texas A&M and they looked like they're a good basketball team. Let's ride it out.
You know, I respect it.
Well, here's where the real thing came from. I thought A&M and Texas round 2 would be a legit matchup. That would be awesome. In-state rivalry, that would be sick. But I was like, okay, the underseed playing a top dog in an in-state rivalry, like give me that underdog. And then I was like, you know what? We're here now. Like I'm just gonna ride it out.
Oh yeah,
It didn't play out.
I respect it. So my Final Four was Alabama versus Memphis and Texas versus Kansas. So
ouch. So you're
but my 2 winners for those games are still there. Alabama and Texas, I had playing in the championship game.
That's good.
So
I got my guys UCLA winning the whole thing. I hope they can hold it out after our guy got injured, but
yeah,
that one hurt.
I'm telling you, Russell Stallings game winner. It's happening.
Championship?
Corner 3 in the championship game.
Come on, dude. I hope so. That'd be so sick.
We'll see.
I got hope though. My bracket has a chance. I got a chance for 3 out of the 4 to go to the Final Four, and my 2 in the championship, and my winner's still in it. So
yeah,
we got hope.
You got hope for sure. I thought that mine was absolutely done after the Memphis lost, and it's clawed its way back up there into contention with a lot of bracket groups. So I'm hoping. I'm hopeful still.
That's the thing, man. Every year I've got to change my mindset going into this thing, because I'm not gonna lie, there was a minute I was perfect until Princeton. I had the Furman upset. I had all that. I was riding the high road. And then I was like, you know what? This might be my year. I might be a billionaire at the end of this. They get you every time, man. They pull you in, and I gotta come in with a different mindset. I'm there now where it's like, okay, whatever happens, like I don't really care that my 8 brackets are terrible, but
yeah. I'm a believer in the one bracket theory. You got to have one bracket to cheer for.
no shot.
Stick to it. Oh yeah.
Dude, I can't even. I had one main bracket that I'm in like 4 different like bracket challenges in, and I couldn't even stick with that one bracket because I went in and changed it 15 times. Because there's so many possible outcomes. I gotta see if I can reach them all.
Then you gotta really think about before you change it. You can't just be like, all right, well, I'll change it in one and leave it in the other, and play it safe either way. Now you got one.
I can't do it.
This is it. It's like fantasy football. You got one team. You don't have like multiple people.
Dude, that is so different. That is not even remotely close.
Hey, say what you want.
You can't just change your draft picks in fantasy football. You can't just be like, shoot, I missed that guy. Let me come back and redo, guys. I undo.
You make a trade. Maybe you just think that. I mean, maybe you saw Tony Pollard really just outperforming Jonathan Taylor, and you wanted to change that last second. Whoever had Jonathan Taylor, I guarantee you, or whoever had Tony Pollard, I guarantee you would have given you or would have taken Jonathan Taylor for him.
Oh, for sure.
So
that wouldn't play it out for the year.
Yeah, imagine. Unless you're like my fantasy team and have both, so slight flex.
Oh yeah. I lost in the championship this year in my fantasy football league. That one hurt.
Ooh, that's painful. I'm in one league that we're drafting. It's a dynasty league, and we're drafting beginning of April, but we're deciding the draft order on March Madness, and so I'm invested.
Oh, that's interesting
because you decide draft order through it.
Oh, I like that.
Dynasty, you like really want a top quarterback, and so like you really want one of those top 6 picks because after that there's a drop off in quarterbacks.
Nice, I love it, dude. That's a great idea.
Yeah, it's fun. We're enjoying it.
But it's fantasy baseball season now, bro.
I've just never been able to get into fantasy
first
baseball.
Year. It's my first year, honestly. I'm kind of nervous. That's a lot of games.
It's the same as fantasy basketball. Like there's just so much to keep up with. It's like fantasy football. I can sit down on a Sunday and on a Thursday night, and like occasionally if I'm free on Monday nights,
right?
Just like watch the game. Fantasy basketball, It's like you never really watch it because there's something going on at all times.
I'm pumped though. My team is stacked. I'm calling it right now. I'm winning my fantasy baseball league. We'll come back and
who's your MVP pick? Who you think's winning? Your team's MVP.
Oh shoot. Dude, I don't know. That's tough.
You got Acuna?
Probably either Juan Soto or Mookie Betts.
Okay, those are solid.
My team's stacked, dude. Like I got some ballers.
Yeah. Hey, we'll see.
Pete Alonso, Nolan Arenado, Juan Soto, Mookie Betts, Cedric Mullins.
Looking forward to the update on it.
Actually, my team MVP is Camilo Duvall.
Okay.
He's a relief pitcher for the Giants. Nasty.
Respect
it. My guy.
Love the pick.
My guy.
Well, we'll keep everybody updated on what draft pick I get in my league.
And if I win my my MLB fantasy league.
Yep. Cool. All right. Well, that's everything we got for you all today. Tune back
Great
in.
Episode. It's a fun episode. I love that episode.
Tune in, leave a comment, leave a like, review, whatever you want to do. On whatever platform you listen / watch this on. So we appreciate y'all's time, and we'll talk to y'all later.